HQN Books and HarlequinAudio present The Forever Farmhouse by Tobin Mcclain. Performed by Tanya Eby. To all who work to preserve the islands of the Chesapeake. Chapter 1. The ferry boat reached Teaberry Island just as the last bit of sun sank behind it, turning the bay into a glossy golden mirror. Ryan Hastings considered himself a serious scientist, not given to surges of emotion. Nonetheless, as he stepped onto the small, isolated island, happiness washed over him like a gentle Chesapeake wave.
"Traveling light, are you?"
The ferryman handed Ryan his single suitcase and accepted the substantial bonus Ryan had offered for the late evening ride.
"Got a place to stay?"
Ryan nodded, even though he wasn't sure of his welcome.
"With Betty Raines."
"Oh,
Shame about Wayne."
Then he squinted at Ryan.
"You're one of their foster kids. The genius, right?"
Ryan's face heated.
"I lived here with them as a teenager. Yeah?"
The man shook his head.
"Never thought the three of you would amount to anything. Shows what I know."
You weren't alone. None of their social workers had expected much from the foster placement. It had been a last-ditch effort to isolate three near-hopeless teens so that at least they didn't influence or harm anyone else. Ryan, Cody, and Louise weren't related by blood. They had never met one another before they'd arrived, separately but within a month of each other, broken, hurting, in trouble with the law. Wayne and Betty Raines had welcomed them into their rambling farmhouse on the shoreline, had provided them with good meals and warm beds, and rules. But most of all, there had been the bay, stretching all around them, a protective moat against their different but equally ugly pasts. There'd been a canoe and a rowboat, and the freedom to spend endless hours exploring the marshes and wetlands, the sun baking their pain away, the lap of water against the dock's pilings, soothing whatever nightmares each of them had faced in childhood. 4 years of that, and they'd all healed enough to make something of themselves. They'd also become brothers in every way that mattered. As the ferry boat chugged away, Ryan turned and lifted his head to sniff the salty, beachy fragrance of the small fishing port. He was traveling light. Was hoping this would be a short trip. Get here, check on Mama Betty, get out. Hopefully within 24 hours. Silvery moonlight lit his path as he walked the half-mile from the docks to Betty's home. He glanced to his right, toward the island's tiny downtown, but saw a few lights. That was the reason the stars shone brighter here, a welcome contrast from his home in Baltimore. Betty's 2-story clapboard house rose in front of him, circled on 2 sides by a wide porch where Ryan had spent plenty of time staring at the cottage, actually the girl, next door. He didn't look in that direction now. Mama Betty was the focus, not himself and his childish romantic dreams. After ascertaining that there were a couple of lights on upstairs, Ryan climbed the steps and tapped on the front door. Arriving at 9 p.m., especially as a surprise visitor, could be considered rude. But Betty wasn't an early-to-bed type, and if he'd warned her he was coming, he was afraid she'd have declined the visit. There was the forever sign that had always hung beside the front door. It had meant the world to him when Betty had told him that, foster or not, she'd act as his mom forever. That he'd always have a place here. But that went both ways. He needed to be here for her, too. He tapped again, louder, and rang the doorbell, anticipating Betty's face when she saw him. No matter what dirt he and his brothers had acquired on their traipses through the marshland back in their teenage years, no matter what trouble they'd gotten into, she'd always welcomed them with open arms. He owed her everything. His career, his sanity, his life. Ryan knocked and rang the bell once more, uneasy. Could Betty be away, visiting a friend? But no, she never left more than a tiny light on when she went out. Like most of the islanders, she was frugal. Had to be. Likely she was caught up in a book from the tiny island library. Ryan had always felt the most responsibility for Betty. They'd been close, sharing an interest in books and learning, while Cody and Louise had connected more with their foster father. Since Wayne had died nearly 3 months ago, they'd all tried to call Betty often, but Ryan was the one who'd been in the most regular phone contact. Not so regular lately. She'd stopped answering her phone most days. Just when he would start worrying
Sample complete. Ready to continue?